Everybody, welcome back. Doing another Marvel Future Revolution. This one, we got a special guest, Dragon's Blood. Check out his channel. We're going to have it in the link in the description below. And I've got a different intro because I'm trying to do anything I can to try to get in touch with Netmarble to show them this game is something worthwhile and to see what's going on. So that's the main thing we talk about in the video. And here's something different.
넷마블은 플레이어를 신경 쓰지 않는 것 같습니다. 후속 조치가 취해지지 않은 약속이 내려졌나요? 플레이어들은 기념일 이벤트를 위해 돈을 쓰고 제안을 구매하기를 원합니다. 넷마블은 왜 이런 일을 하지 않을까요?
Trying to do anything we can to get some attention. Let me know if you have any thoughts on the best way to do this in the comments or the Discord. Let's get to the video.
Bring me WolverThor!
All right, like I mentioned, we've got Dragon's Blood with us today. Thanks for coming on. So before we get to this thing, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, man. First off, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. You know, you're a big name in the Marvel community, of course, and in the game. So I appreciate that.
No, stop.
But yeah, my channel's pretty easy. It's just Dragon's Blood. You can find me. I've done a few videos, not a ton out there, but hopefully done a little bit to try to help the community any way that I can.
No, definitely appreciate that. I know I've seen a lot of your build videos where you're sort of smoking some of those primes and everything, and I'd like to see kind of where you've built and what you're testing and you know, kind of what's been better for you. So thank you for doing that. Anybody wants to check it out, make sure to check that out. I'll get the link from them and put it in the description below as well. So today we are here, we're talking general MFR, right? Marvel Future Revolution. You know, I think we both have really like this game. We enjoy it. We find an escape in it, whether it's from our personal lives, work lives, whatever. We're obviously some Marvel fans. But I think it's probably fair to say, and you correct, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we've sort of gotten to the point where we're a little concerned about it. Is that a fair assessment of why we've kind of somewhat come together today?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, people have been wanting me to jump on and do voice and other things in my videos for a long time. And I haven't, just simply because I've kind of been doing this on the side just for fun, just trying to help people out. But, you know, this is something that I think is a big enough issue that, you know, we really do need to come together, kind of speak out as a community to try to make it better.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100% agree. It's a little worrisome, to say the least, what's kind of happened over the last month. And I think we need to talk about it.
No, I agree with you. And if you're unaware, anybody's watching this unaware, the high level talk that we're talking about here about the things we're concerned with, and we might add some, we'll talk about some of these at depth, and we're going to be continuing to talk about this for the weeks to come. So hopeful that, you know, that we can see some improvement. So the biggest thing I'd say is that there's some concerns about the communication. Actually, that's not the biggest thing for me, but that's one of the biggest things that people talk about is communication. For me personally, I've seen the financials. I did a video on that previously from Netmarble. I'm a little worried about their last 2 quarters and returns and some of the communication things that are happening. Yeah, obviously, or I shouldn't say they closed the CCC. So they had a content creator core program that they did for 2 seasons, and they didn't confirm a 3rd season. So the 2nd season ended, and the 3rd season was not confirmed. So that meant what exactly? A lot of speculation left of that. They didn't advertise Wolverine at all, which to me I found pretty odd. You know, they did the 1 trailer video, but you didn't see any Marvel tweeting, ads out there on any of social medias, any of that stuff. So I sort of want to start with that. That's the high level topic. Of all those things that I sort of brought up, you know, let's ebb and flow between that a little bit. What is the biggest concern that you have, whether it's one of those or something else?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of all of that combined. I think really for me is when you look at the whole, you know, the situation as a whole, when you see everything that's been happening, you know, combined, like I said, over the last month or so, it just kind of makes you wonder, you know, where are we going in this game? And I think just like anything, we're all consumers, whether you're free to play or you're, you know, like other people have said before, dolphin, whale, kraken, whatever, you know, regardless of what you do in this game, even if it's just spending your time, you're investing something into a product and you want to know that you're going to get something out of that product and it's going to be there for a period of time. And, you know, there's the things that have been happening in the game are concerning, and it's making really the entire community just fearful of the future and, you know, where it's going from here.
Yeah,
so I think it's kind of all of that, really.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think that's the thing that, I don't know about you, but I've heard of a lot of people who've either wanted to spend money recently, and they don't see offers what they thought would be tied to the anniversary, which we'll get to in a little bit, or they're just a little bit nervous now. Now, I know, speaking for myself, I saved a little bit because I wanted to spend on what I thought would be good anniversary deals. But now I'm even more hesitant because of what you said. I'm like, well, what's going on with this thing? Like, is this, because I don't want to, yes, I want to pay to have fun, but I don't want to just, I mean, I'm expecting the game to last for years. You know what I mean? Not just like, if this thing's just like, if we're just doing something where it's like, we're just kind of sort of slowly kicking the can around a little bit, like I'll just play what I've got and just be free to play 100%. But now, having said that, and you know, we don't want to necessarily get to that point, because if the game is struggling, the last thing you want to do is not necessarily spend, but you've got to spend wisely. So the thing, and I'll say it again, is have a budget, stick within your budget, make sure you know what you're spending the best of your ability. If you've got endless funds, obviously, then you don't have necessarily concern, but if you do have a tighter budget, make sure to wrap around that. But yeah, are you seeing, or what are your thoughts on, you know, whether you're, you know, someone to spend, you spend that, like you said, it's either money or time, right? You know, are you going to put that investment into a game that you have some doubts about?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I've heard the same things, you know, people in my alliance and even my server, you know, they've all said the same thing. For weeks, everybody was either saving, you know, materials up or spending money buying things and saving pool tickets for the anniversary. Everybody just assumed that we were going to have these, you know, amazing banners, kind of like we did for Black Friday.
Oh God, that was so
something
good.
Similar. Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, that was the best thing best banners they've ever had in this game.
Yeah.
Drop rates were crazy, but everybody was kind of anticipating something along those lines. And I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but you know, we were told that an anniversary event was going to happen. And so it's not like we were just assuming all of this, you know, and I know you've talked about this in your other videos, but you know, we had that anticipation that was going to happen, and it so far it didn't, and it hasn't.
Right.
And so that's really been the huge letdown. So I've had so many people, either through my YouTube videos or just my server, people messaging me all different ways, and they're all asking me, do you think I should just go ahead and use my tickets? Should I just go ahead and pull? You know, should I do everything now? Should I keep waiting? You know, those are the questions that I'm getting.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And that sort of ties into like one of the first thing that, I mean, do you think that promises were made that they currently haven't followed up on? Because you're right. I'm looking at Dev Note 12 right now. They talk I'll read the specific quote here. Our first anniversary is coming close as well. Please look forward to our future Dev Note, where we will briefly share with you what we have prepared for our first anniversary. That's what it says. Now, let me jump to, you know, the Dev Note 13, which is the only other one that's out. And if you go through this thing, it's squad battle, it's Wolverine, it's balance adjustments, and some general miscellaneous improvements through Omega card stat changes and a battle challenge adjustment. And that's it. You know, and so do you think, back to that question, do you think that so far, at least that promises that was made and they haven't followed up on it?
100%. I mean, and again, that's part of why I'm jumping on here and talking to you about this, is because, you know, some of the things that are happening right now are kind of another level. It's not just, you know, we've all played games that have had issues. We've all had games where developers haven't communicated. I mean, people have said this in other channels, other videos, but there was a game that's now been out 7 or 8 years, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and there was a good, you know, year where the developers didn't respond at all. No communication. Yeah. But updates came out in the game. It was still, you know, running very well, and it was more in a, you know, the game was pretty smooth at that point. That had been a few years in. Yeah. So I mean, that kind of thing doesn't really scare me, but when a game has set the precedent of doing a certain thing, you know, like they did with Scarlet Witch and how they rolled everything out, and then to have just a clear, you know, I guess deviation or whatever from that thing that they typically do. And then also on top of that, to have zero communication, which has been, you know, something that's different. That's what's concerning.
Yeah.
And and it's just as someone that is, again, taking your time or your money, they have an obligation to hold up their end of the bargain, which is we're creating, a way for you to have entertainment, and we're going to be doing it for a period of time.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing I think that's a little concerning with this.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that conversation, leads in, and the people have said this to me, and I told them, I say, I don't know. Like, I mean, there's certainly right now, they've obviously not delivered on that specific promise, but people started talking to me about false advertising. And I was like, okay, I get it. And I started thinking about it. I might have said this in another video as well, but I'll step into it even more. Is like, I know personally, I bought, when I started hearing about the first anniversary and thinking about the deals, knowing that Netmarble in general does these big things, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy offers in preparation to do this. I'm on my screen right now. I mean, I'm clicking, and I am not a gigantic spender. I'd say I'm dolphin-y, whaley-ish, but I have almost 67,000 crystals. Now,
wow.
That's, through buying offers over the course of months, $27 offers, $45 offers. We're not talking thousands of dollars necessarily there, but definitely multiple hundreds. And I bought those with the sense that they advertise this thing in this. And I like, look, maybe it'll still come to fruition. Maybe they'll bring something to it. But I bought it based on the fact that they sort of advertised that this anniversary would eventually come. Do you think, and if this is too pointed of a question, no big deal, but do you think that could be potentially considered something like false advertising?
I mean, yes, I really do. Because, part of me, I don't want to go down that road completely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's been a lot of games where people have gotten refunds and things have happened, for something really similar to this, and sometimes even less than this. But it does seem that way. And so, again, I feel like that's a pretty strong statement, but also I think it fits. We had a clear statement that said it was going to happen. We have now passed that time. It has not happened.
Yeah.
It also in that statement said that the information would be in the next dev notes, which it wasn't.
Well, it says future, just to make sure, it says our future dev note. So
good point. That's true. It did say future, but the future dev note that was before the anniversary, right?
I think that would be the right argument to make. Yes.
Yeah. So, so those are two things that didn't happen based on what they stated. Yeah. And listen, we're not sitting here saying that every single company has to make every single statement. They can't make mistakes.
Right.
But the difference with this one is what we're talking about right now. People were prepping, people were buying, people were doing things more than usual, to prepare for the anniversary, and it didn't happen.
Right.
And, at this point, what's almost worse is if they, somehow still did an anniversary, let's say in a few weeks or even a month or something.
Yeah.
All of the people that spent and saved up have now, or will by that point, have already spent, those crystals or savings or cards. And they'll probably be even more frustrated because, they didn't get to spend it when they thought they were supposed to.
Yeah, that gets to be a slippery slope for sure. Can you imagine? Because there is a post that was out there that somebody who apparently plays Future Fight said something that Netmarble did this in Future Fight, where that their anniversary event, and I don't know if it was this year, if it was a previous year, it was their first year. I have no clue, no context there. But they said that their anniversary came a week late. So,
I heard about that,
yeah. So when we publish this video, it's going to be, August 28th, at least in the States. And, so I'm hoping sometime that following week of, the 29th through the, what is it there? The 3rd of September, maybe we'll get something. But if it doesn't, I'm really leaning into the, conspiracy theory aspect out there where like, these guys aren't following through what they're talking about here. And again, I want this game to do well. I don't want to bring like a bunch of, I don't want something to burn the game down through that. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not just going to stand here and get walked over and quote unquote false advertised to, or a promise that's not kept, so I'm definitely sort of keeping my eye on it. And for anybody who's watching the video at this point, I'd love to hear in the comments below. Let me know what you guys did or didn't do for this. What your feelings are. I know some people aren't going to care. They're going to be like, we got what we got. We got some from Wolverine. I'm like, that's fine. I'm happy about the Wolverine event, but it wasn't this. So that part I'm kind of, interested to see how it plays out. So,
Well, and I think ultimately that's even the saddest part about this whole thing. The game itself is a great game.
Yeah.
It's got an amazing foundation. All of the heroes, even with the problems and the bugs and the things that happen. I mean, that's within every game, right?
Sure.
But the graphics are amazing. It looks amazing. It feels great. I think you even said this in one of your other videos, but it does feel like each hero is fairly unique. Obviously, there's some stuff that's similar.
Yeah.
Like Captain America and Wolverine's run is basically the same thing. But in general, every character, you really feel like that is that character. It's fairly unique.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of games that are like that. And so, I think people really enjoy the game if we could just fix some of these issues in communication. I feel like it has a chance to really, get a bigger audience, grow in popularity, and it could be one of those games that lasts for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I think before we move on to some other points here, the keys to, and this is maybe a whole different video, but some of the keys that I think they could do to definitely improve it, and we've talked about this, and some additional fodder to keep people engaged in the game. Some endless PvE modes that, for people like you or people like Halfsend or anybody who's got those giant big characters that, it's like, look, this isn't easy content. Just let me dial this thing up until I literally can't go anymore. And now,
100%.
Would it be something that, like, maybe you get some ranking points or something? Sure, because you want to incentivize a little bit. Or maybe it's just bragging rights. You know what I mean? Where you get, like, a cool... I've said this in the past to them in one of the earlier content creator seasons where I said, look, when you guys get world firsts or something that's the top of something, give somebody a glowy aura around themselves. It doesn't have to be a special anything.
Yeah.
Because people like the symbols above people's head, they want that gold symbol. They want that gray symbol. Because, what I mean? That stuff matters. They want that. And the same thing, if you could get like a rare look to you, I was the first one to get level 100 of a raid because it was so hard, but I beat it, and I eventually got there. And it's like, cool. That's literally like, it doesn't mean anything to anybody, other than the top few trying to get it, but it gives people something to strive for. So I think if they lean into that a little bit, keeping people with the ability to have something to strive for, additional fodder in the game. I mean, squad battles is sort of fun. I like it. I'm not going to spend money to get my characters all up to, a certain gigantic 3 million or something like that. But I'm definitely interested in like, man, I wish these characters could be a little stronger, but I don't have fodder to put into my own character, like my main 1, 2 character, let alone 3, 4, 5, 6. I know you're in a little bit different situation where you've got a big full roster, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, first let me say this. I mean, I think, games that are successful in this kind of a setup, where you have microtransactions. Obviously, most people, we all hate microtransactions over the years in the gaming community, just in general.
Yeah.
But in the last 5-10 years, I mean, that's just kind of where we are now. So it's just very, prevalent in the gaming community now. But the games that have really made this work is where you're not super, super greedy and just go after people spending money and have this huge disparity. You have to look at every single class. You have to help the free to play. You have to make it where they can do some catch up mechanics and where they can feel like they're in the game and still accomplishing something. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be the number 1 player in the world or whatever, but if they can play the game and have fun and, maybe eventually spend even a little bit, then that's a win, and then you obviously have to have a pretty good, setup for the middle people. And then you do need something there for the whales. Everybody has to have fun with the game and get something out of it. And if they can build it that way and focus on those pieces, again, that's when the community, grows. That's when the game grows in popularity.
Yeah.
And obviously they can make more money, more profits, etc. And then, hopefully they can continue to make the game really good, come out with new material, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes until you get to those points, fill in the gaps a little bit with like smart AI bot type things that are, maybe I'm not facing you in something, but there's 10 other things in between us. that I'm more
100%.
likely to get instead of you. And in the meantime, you know, folks at your power level, when you're trying to queue up for, you know, Dimension Duel, you're not waiting 30 minutes to get a match because it's just, there's the people on are just way too small. I know that happens a lot with some of the top tier players. So
it's pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, after Monday, really, you know, you're going to wait anywhere from 5 to 20, 25 minutes for one match. And it just kind of takes the fun out of it a little bit. You
Absolutely.
know?
I mean, obviously I'm in a different level, but like my Dimension Duel waiting is typically anywhere from 1 to 30 seconds, you know, and that's it. And I'm done. And I cannot imagine waiting that long for something. It's just like, so I've heard of people who wait and then, you know, they didn't notice and they lost. And it's like, okay, well, you know. So anyway, so that's one aspect of that's sort of, you know, game improvement type thing. You know, one thing I did want to ask you about, and this is sort of a little different, but, you know, it is Netmarble's Discord that they run. But you had a post on there the other day that that got deleted. And it was generally this topic, right? Like, tell me a little bit about what you had up there. And, you know, I think they later apologized, but just tell me about the message you shared and just that whole interaction.
Yeah. So, you know, again, it's kind of what really started all this for me. You know, I've, like I said before, I've just kind of done this on the side, done it for fun, whatever. It's an escape type thing for me in the game. But when I just started seeing all of these concerns and all these things going on, I was like, you know what, I'm going to just post something. I'm going to do what I can to try to get their attention, anybody's attention. Just this is just not a smart way to run a company. You know, it's just that kind of thing were my thoughts. And I just wrote a pretty basic comment. It wasn't really anything groundbreaking or new. I was just talking to them, telling them, like, guys, you know, please communicate. You know, you don't have to tell us anything, you know, positive or whatever, but at least say something. You know, going complete radio silence, again, when we had an expectation of an anniversary, if they had never said that and this was all just made up by us, that would be different, you know. But they did say that. They said something was going to happen and it didn't, and there's no communication. Just in life, you know, if you don't communicate with somebody, they're going to think the worst. But if you just come out and tell them, hey, here's what we're doing, you know, unfortunately we thought we were going to do anniversary, now we're not, we're sorry, here's, you know, some compensation. We hope you love the new Wolverine stuff. Let's move on. You know, if it was even something like that, people would probably have calmed down and no big deal. But basically, I just asked them to please respond to the community. You know, we care about the game. We want the game to be successful. We just need some communication. And so I didn't realize this was going to happen, but it just got upvoted and people reposting it like, you know, 50, 60, 70 times over a pretty short period of time. And they deleted the post and then deleted other people's posts as well. And I've never talked to the moderators. I've never talked to the CMs. Like I haven't been involved in that part of it. But I had a moderator that reached out to me and apologized. And she sent me my original post back. She just told me that, hey, because there were so many CMs being, being added, I guess, over and over and over and over, they just had to stop it, which I totally understand. And so, you know, we moved the post to another location. More people saw it. They upvoted it, and it's still there now. And I think, you know, hopefully that message gets through, you know, really to the devs, because that's who really matters in this whole situation.
You know, and that sort of evolves me to the next step in some of this stuff, where this thought, you know, I'm getting people messaging me about, you know, they don't know if they want to, you know, move forward. They're asking me about laws for mobile companies. I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure there's something they have to follow. And, you know, they were like, I want to file a complaint about this. And I'm like, look, I don't know how this works. I know, you know, I'm sure that it's happened before. You know, again, we're talking about Korea here as well. It might be different, but do you think that's the sort of thing that, you know, that I mean, because like you said, we're trying to get attention to the devs. Hey, developers, like we understand there's been issues with the game, and I know that the company's financially struggling with certain things, but you have a base here that can really work in the game. And I don't mean player base, I mean in the game. But do you think the sort of thing where people start going and filing complaints in court, or, you know, doing something in Korea to like knock on these people's doors and say, hey guys, are you still there? Are you alive? Like, is that the sort of thing that we need to do as a player base to try to grab their attention?
Well, I mean, that is kind of the natural next step, you know? I mean, just even in the United States, there are a lot of laws surrounding, you know, companies and gaming companies and how they treat their player base and what they do. Because ultimately you're talking about, especially if you're spending money, it's a transaction, right?
Yeah.
And when you spend money, you're expected to have certain things tied to that. And, you know, I don't have a lot of knowledge about Korea and how they do things, but, you know, I've heard about things in the past. I've seen things in the past. And I do know that they have some laws that are actually a little more strict than we have in the United States. I think part of the problem, though, is when you have a Korean-based company that's doing a game in the U.S., unless you have a fairly large, you know, Korean population that play the game, it kind of can make the company maybe feel like they're separated, or that, you know, they don't hear from us because we're the U.S., you know, we're so far away or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the next step, because think about it this way. Let's just say worst case scenario. If something was going on to where, you know, hopefully, again, we hope this doesn't happen, but let's say the company was going out of business or something along those lines. Well, then, you know, everything that we've invested this whole year, and where it would really matter is from when the company knew that they were going to go out of business or stop this, right?
Yeah, right.
And if they didn't communicate that, and people were still spending money, still spending time in the game, that's where the problem comes.
Right.
Because now, you know, that might even be worse than straight up false advertising.
I would agree.
Because now, you know, people are spending money on something that's not going to be there, and they knew it.
Yeah, no, and
So-
that's a good point, and not to cut you off, but just I
you're
kind
fine.
of, but like, it's a different country and a different economy. But my understanding of some of the things that are happening in like the Chinese real estate economy is that some of the loans that people would get there were based on the predication that they'd eventually build a home. So they'd set in prices to eventually get that home, but some of the developers there started going under because they overextended themselves too much. So these people were paying these mortgages to these homes that they were expecting to get, and then they never got them, and they stopped paying them, and they, you know, anyway, and it's a little bit different. It's much more serious. Obviously, we're talking about digital widgets versus someone's real home, but the concept still stays the same, whether it's physical or digital. We are still paying for a product that we expect to be there, you know, and without that, you know, at some point, if they knew, like, I'm sure there's conversations, there might be public calls and that sort of thing where you go, oh, well, you know, if this doesn't work, you know, our last quarter, this quarter, like, okay, we need to pull this, we need to do that, we need to change this. Like, we're going into, you know, this sort of mode with this game. We're going to do that with this game. We're going to do that. And if you don't tell people that and you keep letting them just spend, like, okay, you're right. That's a good point. That could be way more serious than anything that has to do with false advertising. That's true. It's a good point.
Well, and think about it this way too. I mean, Netmarble is a fairly large company. It's got a lot of subsidiaries and everything with it. And, you know, the last thing any company wants is false advertisement, or for them to look weak, or for them to look like they're, you know, hurting their player base, because then obviously that can hurt their other games.
Right.
So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that if it goes down that road, and this is, you know, the direction that they're going to take this, you know, then I think that's kind of the next natural step for us as players to try to make it better or save it, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I would, you know, I'm curious to see where everyone else is at. You know, I mentioned earlier in the video, comment below. We want to hear what you guys have to think about this. How are you feeling about it? The game seems to be bringing back a ton of new players. I know a bunch of people who, you know, saw Wolverine were like, I want to play. I'm coming back. Oh, wow, I can now, they've got more of this now. It's easier to do this now. I'm like, yeah, they've sort of changed some stuff. They're kind of heading in the right direction a little bit here, you know. And there was a game, Lost Ark, that I played for a little bit, that it was out for at least 2 years, I think, before it ever hit the US. And it almost died, you know, but they kept listening to their community, and they kept improving it, and it got to the point where it was really good. Now, I ended up stopping playing because they changed a little bit, at least, you know, it was in the US and elsewhere, where I was like, well, I don't want to build up all these alts to be able to even compete. So I stopped. But the concept that, you know, you could sort of like, if you listen to your community a little bit and sort of like try to ebb and flow with what they might want, you've got a great product there. That game was huge, you know. Amazon,
Yeah.
giant concerts, all these things. So I don't know. I'm not giving up myself personally yet. Maybe you're right. Like some of this stuff, the next step is try to reach out. You know, if any of our Korean friends are watching this, let us know, you know, if you know anybody over there, if there's an ability to do something to help, you know, make them more aware. I'd love to know about it. You know, if we've got to have one of our friends who's over there knock on their door and say, hey guys, we just, you know, we're here, we're alive. I know that, you know, we care about the game. I'd love to hear from you guys. So before we wrap up, any other thoughts, anything else that you want to cover? Just generally speaking about the game, this concept of communication or what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to just leave us with, at least from my side, on a positive note. You know, I know a lot of the things we're talking about right now are kind of more negative, right? We're worried about things. We're talking about that. But on a positive note, you know, this game, as I said earlier, it's got a great foundation. It's a good game. It's built well, etc. You know, there are so many times, like you mentioned with Lost Ark, there's so many games over the years that struggled in the first year or even the first couple of years. And then a company bought them out, or they brought in new developers, or they changed, you know, how they did things, or leadership changed, or whatever. And, you know, then they were able to turn the game around, get the player base back on board, and everybody was happy, and the game had a lot of success.
Yeah.
And so I still think that can happen. But, you know, maybe we can be the catalyst to make some kind of a change with some of the things that we're talking about right now, just to show the company that it's not okay to treat the player base this way. And if they realize that we're paying attention and we care, maybe they will change, you know, how they're treating us, and the game can again get back on track.
I like it. I think that's a great positive note. Appreciate it. Agree with everything you said. Appreciate you taking the time. Like we mentioned at the front end, go check out Dragon's Blood's channel. I'm going to put the link in the description below. I'm sure we're going to be talking about this more and more in the days and weeks to come. So hit us up on the Discord, whatever you guys want to do to make sure that you get your voices known. Comment below. Appreciate all you guys thought. Appreciate you guys making this far. You know, if you want to hammer down like buttons to help the YouTube algorithm out, I appreciate it. Notification bell, subscribe, and until next time, we hope you have a wonderful day. It seems like Netmarble doesn't care about their players. Were promises made that weren't followed up on? Players are wanting to spend money and buy offers for an anniversary event. Why isn't Netmarble doing something for this?